Hello, it's October 19, Saturday. I haven't been able to work on this since last weekend. I've been working out of town. And I was in kind of a rush to put this thing together last Sunday because I was running out of time. So I didn't take any video. So you kind of missed a little bit, but I'll go over it all. That's our 3/16 plywood, and it's already glued to the frame. I've got the door just kind of propped up against the table here to make my life easy. I'm going to be cutting insulation to fill this void. 3 layers, a 1/2 inch, probably going to be what I'm going to do there. This area here is going to be where the glass is going to go. I'm going to use my router and a trimming bit to cut out the plywood after I'm done, and also trim off the excess on the edges. The stage where we are right now is to glue the aluminum on this side, and it's going to be a repeat performance pretty much how I did this part. So I put the plywood down on the table first. Then I took the wood frame and put it on top of the plywood, but flipped. Then I came back with my grooved trowel, used the coarse groove. These are like 16th inch grooves. And I used this to spread the wood glue. It worked really, really well. And I fully coated the door frame with the glue. Then we flipped the frame over onto the plywood, glue side down, and began clamping all the way around the perimeter, clamping the wood frame down to the plywood as it's sitting on the table. Then this was the straightest piece of surface I had anywhere in my house, even more straight than my kitchen countertop here. It's amazingly straight. So anyway, I was using all the clamps I had, and in order to get a good squeeze on the middle area of this and the middle area of this, I used these 2 pieces of 1x4, placed them in the middle, and then took these leftover pieces of 1x4 oak and went over the top of the door and squeezed something like this. I squeezed it down on the ends and put a bow in this, so it put a great deal of pressure in the middle, and I clamped it down enough to where it was also pressing on the ends. That's how much of a bow this thing had in it. And they gave me great clamping force all along the middle and all around the whole perimeters. It has sat here for a whole week. Now I'm finally getting around to the aluminum. I just straightened up my wax paper that I put down, and I just noticed this. I'll probably put a little piece of tape over that little nick right there. And this is so if any glue squeeze out occurs, it'll get on the wax paper and not onto my wood table, and inadvertently glue my work down to the table, which could be a problem. And we're also planning on using this as our countertop in the bus. That's some really nice maple butcher block. So now the next step is I'm going to come over and grab my piece of aluminum, which is sitting here. It's the wider piece of these 2. I'm going to put the good side down. That'll be the outside, because this stuff's got a couple little scratches in it when I was cutting. And then on the top side, the glue side of the aluminum, I'm going to use some very coarse sandpaper and scuff up the area wherever it's going to be glued. Then come back with some isopropyl alcohol and paper towels and clean that up. All right, so that aluminum is going to be sitting on here. And then we're going to take the door and put it on top of that as a good work surface. Then we're going to mix up our epoxy and smear the epoxy all around the door on wherever it's going to be glued. And set the door on top of the aluminum and clamp it just like we did doing the wood. Except the epoxy doesn't need to be tightly clamped. Epoxy works fine, better if it's loosely clamped or not even clamped at all, just weighted or something. So we're going to see how that goes when we start to lay this thing out, because we don't want to over squeeze all the epoxy out of the seam. All right, we're getting close here. I decided to wipe clean the aluminum before I sanded, so all the oils would be removed and not ground into the aluminum when I sanded it. And now what I've done is I've marked the glue areas, so I know where I need to sand it, right? So I'm going to sand that now, or maybe what I'll do now is I'll cut the insulation, then I'll come back and sand that. So what I'll be doing is sanding this right before it's time to glue. All right, we got it glued up. I think I forgot to get an image of the aluminum after I had sanded it, but there's the finish. Okay, I just used my belt sander, and it's like a 40 grit belt on there, and I sanded it in the whole area where it's getting glued so the glue can bite. And what we've been doing, there you go, is looking for the squeeze out of the glue like you see there. So we know we got a good bond. Okay, and it's all not that critical on the perimeter. Of course we want it as perfect as we can get it, but the perimeter is going to get the aluminum channel, and that's going to hold the whole thing together. So we're using pieces of wood on top so we don't put dents in our finished interior 3/16 plywood. All right, so what we've got is, you know, the whole door, the rigidity of the door is squeezing down on here, so we don't have really a high pressure point by every clamp, but nonetheless it took a lot of clamps to make sure we had squeeze out all the way around. And the clamps were not all that tight. They're just snug, just enough to get the squeeze out, because we don't want to squeeze out all the glue. The epoxy works best if you don't squeeze it all out. I read or heard somewhere. This side I can't even see because it's too dark back there. But all right, it's about 9 o'clock at night, and I got done what I wanted to do, so it'll be nice and cured. I think it says 24 hours for full cure. 30 minutes to work with it. It was absolutely wonderful to work with this stuff. Nice and thick, spreads like butter, and yeah, very happy with the way I used half a can of each of the hardener and the resin. Oh gosh, that feels good. So the only nail biter I have here is that the finished width of this needs to be narrow enough that the channel is going to fit. So the test piece fit, and hopefully it'll fit here. Otherwise I'm going to have to, you know, whittle down on this only in the area where the channel goes and not mar up the part that you're going to see. But so this whole hollow area will be cut out. Yeah, I didn't get a video of the area right here that was, it's got the insulation in it. You can hear how it's kind of solid. It's only, you know, from here down. I bored that out with a 3/8 butterfly, I guess you call it, bit, wood auger bit, I don't know, those flat wood cutting bits, about halfway through or 3/4 of the way through the 1x4, so then I can put the screw into the cross piece and get that bonded in there. So it's a solid ass door, I can tell you that.